Hey, how you doing? It's Trader Joe's. This video is going to be an overview of this parang, which I got from a guy who's a fellow YouTuber named Turbo Conquering Mega Eagle. And it's a parang. And a parang is a type of a brush clearing implement used in um, the Malay Archipelago or Malaysia. And the type of vegetation that's in that part of the world is different from the type of vegetation that's in South America. Like in South America, it's more suitable for these things to be a machete, you know. So this is a little different than a machete. One, it's not as long. This particular example of it, it usually has a balance point that's quite a bit further ahead of the handle. So where this is pretty good because it gives a lot of forward weight to the chop, and it has 3 different grinds on it. The front end is supposed to be very sharp for skinning, and then the central area is where the majority of the power of the blade is a convex grind, and that's for splitting. And then the grind closest to the handle is very sharp for carving. You know, so they use this end of it for carving points and sticks and stuff like that, and then this part is for chopping through vines, and then I guess this part would be used if they were going to be skinning game. So there is a slightly different grind from here to here than there is from here to here. You know, like it's more convex in the middle. James, the guy that made this, he has multiple different talents, and he's a mechanic by trade. So he's been experimenting for the past couple of years with trying to forge things. He built a forge. Pretty interesting channel to watch, actually. I believe this is walnut or hickory. I'm not sure. And then there's a number of videos on him producing these leather sheaths, and came out very nice. It's got these copper or brass rivets to hold everything in place, and to keep the blade from coming through and cutting your hand, which has happened to me. And so all the points that the blade could come through would be limited into how far it could go, because it would have to cut into these copper areas, But the stitching was done very well. He bought a Chinese shoe sewing machine. That's manual sewing machine. And he has a number of videos on that. And he's like refining it and making it really interesting looking. And that's all about the machine that he used to sew this leather. The leather was also waxed, and it's very stiff. It feels almost like Kydex type of a feel to it. It's very stiff and durable. And you can see, like the way that this is not cracks. It's just the way that the wax had dried on here to enable it to have flexibility. It would have to get some creases in it, so that it can bend over and retain the blade. And we're in the midst of a heat wave outside, and it's quite hot and humid. So I was planning on doing some chopping with this to show, but I'm going to have to make this video in more than one segment, and then do some of that on a day that's not so oppressive outside. But you can see it has a lanyard tube through there. It's got a nice comfortable grip, and you can feel that it has a heavy fall to it. Like it feels like it wants to drop out of your hand, like the tip, and that would help. And it would help keep you from getting too fatigued and trying to swing through a thick vine or a branch or something like that. These types of things are useful in our regions as well, regardless of where you are, because one way or the other, even though like the reason why there's different designs for parangs and bolos and stuff like that. You know, in fact, these are very similar to the bolo knives and the golok type of a chopper. You know, they're just they're useful. You know, you always find some way to chop something. You know, whether it's vegetation or you know, if you were using it to split open game or something like that, you know, which I don't do, but you know, you could use it in hunting, you know, I guess. But it's a nice beefy handle, full tang, brass lanyard tube. You can put a lanyard through there. And the if you look at the blade, you can see it was those little circular areas are just little dents from when he was hammer forging this, you know. You know, he tried to hammer in the bevel, you know. And then he ground it. It's very sharp. I'm trying to be careful so as to not cut myself, which I'm kind of famous for doing, you know. So this is basically an overview, and then the next segment, I'll bring this outside in a couple of days from now when it's not so hot out, and I'll cut some stuff up. It's got a nice belt loop dangler, you know, so that as you walk, it can swing, you know, and not bind if you sit down, and you know, gives some flexibility to how it can be hung up if you were able to carry this around. Which I imagine you could do if you were like in the woods or hunting or something like that. Or if you were in the jungle. Okay, so stay tuned for the next segment. The type of vegetation that grows on the Malay Archipelago is type of a vines that are they call woody vines. It would be very similar to this, but I don't want to cut these because these are an attractive plant. But there are some type of vines that are in the woods over here that I can cut. Specifically this type of bush here, or tree. It does have some branches that are growing down to the ground that do have a lot of similarity to that type of vine. So you can see the size of the parang. Hopefully I don't get cut trying to unsheath it, as I'm known to do. So we can test now, because it's been several days since I made that first video. Just see how this performs. I try to hold the phone and do the chopping at the same time. There's this little stub here. It's probably dried out. Let's see what happens. It may just knock off. So it's very dry, but it's very dense wood too. You can probably tell by the sound of this is a dry piece of wood here, you know. I think that typically people who would be using something like this in Malaysia would probably be going after something that's green. So let's see. In this area here, there's this large tree covered with ivy.
it is green. It's good to do this anyway, because if I could stop this ivy from growing up this tree, it won't damage it as much. Got a spider web here though, so I'm trying to figure out what would be a good example to try to see how well this thing works. Feels nice. There's not that much shock to the hand with it. I mean, there's minimal shock, but there is. It's not like it's being transmitted directly to my hand. Let's see if I can find something else I could chop on. That'll be a little easier to film. I often refer to this area here as Fern Gully. Kind of beautiful, isn't it? Trying to figure out what I could chop. I mean, ideally, it would be good if something that was supported, because when you try to chop something that can move like that, you know, you're not really getting a good gauge as to its penetrative power. It's very hard to do it effectively. It's not really giving a good example of how well it's working. But like this it's been sitting here for a while, so it's rock hard. But that would be good if it was kind of soft. It's all punky. Another tree with vines on it. Living, let's see. And this hook here is nice. It's keeping this from flying out of my hand. What I'm doing is I'm trying it in different locations, because this, you know, supposedly the grind near the handle is for carving. That's very effective. I actually cut it all the way through. So I've been using this for a little while now. This part here down by the pinky is very nice. Keeps it from wanting to come out of your hand. I've been chopping on various types of vegetation here, and I'm not getting much in the way of shock through the handle, which is good. A lot of times you'll get something that every time you have an impact with something, it could just bing, you just feel it go right through your hand, you know. Trying to show different types of vegetation that I could chop with it. The types of vegetation that they use in the Malay Archipelago with this type of a tool, or that they chop with this type of a tool, is typically like woody vines. What I'm doing here is these vines are going to choke off this tree. So usually what I do is I come around and I chop them just so I can sever the supply that's going to be killing the tree if I keep letting it go. Trying to find something that I could actually chop on, that will show the effectiveness of it. A few times I was trying to film already, and if I try to chop on a branch that's just growing up out of a plant, like let's say, for example, if I was going to try to chop on this to show, because you see how it can move, if you're going to chop it, it's going to move with the impact, and it's going to look like it doesn't have any kind of chopping power. So I got to be, in order to show this fairly, you have to be able to chop on something that doesn't move, so that you can see how far in it actually penetrates when you go to chop something. The other problem is trying to find, you can find stuff on the ground, but a lot of times that's already been dried out a lot, and it's not really also an effective demonstration, because it's all dried out, and when it's dry, it also doesn't look like it penetrates much. So it's not fair to the maker to demonstrate on something that's dried out. It's better when it's green wood, green meaning that it's still alive, or it still has a lot of moisture in it, because that would be more of an effective demonstration. Now this green is not actually on these sticks. These sticks are just laying here. Just trying to find something I could chop with that's actually alive, I don't want to go up to a tree and just like chop off a branch, unless it's something that's worthy of it. I guess this guy, I could take this one out. Now this is, depending upon how I hit this will be a pretty effective demonstration, because actually this one might be better, but because it's not going to move easily from the impact, and then you could see, if I hit it right, you can see how much it can penetrate into something of this size, which is, a bit thicker than your thumb. Let's just try. Now, the side of the blade closest to the handle is supposed to be of a sharpness that's good for carving, and it seems like it does. And I think the chopping part of this is near the middle part around here. That's where it should be the most effective chop. This will be more of a glancing blow anyway, so kind of hard to show this stuff, if you've never filmed things like this, it's kind of difficult. But I was going to show the type of vegetation that it's more likely to be like in that area of the world where this type of knife was developed. And you see this? This has a woody vine, you know, very woody. Like it's not really soft and flexible, but it's more like wood. But it's still at the same time it's alive and green. So that's really what this is made for chopping. But I don't want to chop that because that's a decorative plant. See? It's kind of difficult. But so far this has been very nice. It's a good size thickness of steel. It's got a 90-degree spine, so this could strike a ferro rod. And the handle's comfortable. Doesn't transmit that much shock. And the sheath is really nice. I realize I just left the sheath way over there. The sheath is very nice quality leather. And what did I drop over here? Let's see. Yeah, it's got these brass rivets in here. What's good about brass is it doesn't rust. You know, this is kind of like if you look at the watch pocket on your jeans, you know, the same type of brass. It's thick leather, but it's very rigid too from the wax. So it's a very nice sheath. These little crinkles on here are from the wax, the coating of wax that's on here that you can feel. So you know this would be really protective from the elements. You know, it would last for quite a while. You know, wouldn't rot. You know. And it's got the nice dangler, you know, you can put your belt through here and that'll enable this to swing as you walk, you know, and it's got that the curved part of the D-ring so that it'll also pivot, so you know, so that it'll go this way and it'll also pivot this way. So, you know, this would not get in the way. You know, you could even go to sit down on the ground and it would just bend out of the way. So it's good quality sheath. The stitching is very nice. He has made a video about his Chinese shoe cobbler sewing machine that he has. It's a manual sewing machine. He just turned this flywheel on it to, it's really interesting video. This is very good stuff. Should last you for a long time if you took care of it. And I like the forging marks on there, the little dents and stuff like that, you know, from where he was hammering it to hammer in the bevel. He's a good guy, you know, so if you're interested in this type of thing, he has an Etsy shop you can purchase these things from, and I recommend him. There's also another YouTuber, Vinny's Day Off. He also did a review of one of these. And I think him and I are probably the first customers to get these. So it's really not that expensive for something that's handmade like that, you know. It would take you several days if you wanted to try to make something like this, if you had the skills and the materials. Otherwise, it's, you know, less than $100. You can get something that's, you know, you could potentially have for the rest of your life and even pass on. Beautiful day here in New York. It's just about 8 p.m. I gotta get going. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I'll try to make some more videos in the future. And I appreciate the views. Please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.